let's jump right in. Today, we're breaking down a brilliantly simple joke to see how a tiny shift in perspective can literally rewrite reality. In this explainer, we are taking a deceptively quick exchange between a teacher and, well, a very unusual student named Rochi, and completely unpacking the mechanics of why it works so well.
Before we even meet these characters, I want you to just chew on this fundamental question. How does a simple shift in perspective completely rewrite reality? Because reality, it's not always a fixed objective truth, right? It's heavily dependent on who is actually doing the observing. What means one thing to you could mean the exact opposite to someone else, simply because of where they happen to be standing.
All right, moving into Act 1, the classroom setup. Any good story needs a baseline of the totally ordinary. So we open with the teacher saying, "Welcome to class. What's your name?" We all know this cadence. It immediately anchors us in this super familiar, everyday setting. But boom, that normalcy completely shatters the second the student replies, "Rochi, ma'am." Instantly, we've got an absurd talking cockroach sitting right there in this normal classroom. And yet, hilariously, the tone stays completely polite. Which brings us to Act 2, Rochi's great aspiration.
The teacher, who is apparently totally unfazed by having a giant insect in her class, asks that classic childhood question, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" It's the standard question meant to inspire big ambitions.
Now, this setup here is just perfect. Normally, a teacher expects to hear something like, "I want to be a doctor," or maybe an astronaut. But Rochi's answer? A human? He's not aiming for a profession. The guy is aspiring to be an entirely different species. To really understand this bizarre answer, we have to talk about perspective. It's that subjective lens, the viewpoint through which an individual interprets the events and actions of everyone around them. Because honestly, in Rochi's mind, wanting to be a human makes absolute logical sense. The teacher is, naturally, completely bewildered. So she asks the exact question we're all thinking. Why? That single word is the ultimate prompt to reveal the hilarious misunderstanding that is driving this whole story. Let's track Rochi's logic here, which is built on a completely flawed premise. Step 1. Humans see me. Fact. Step 2. Humans scream and run. Also a completely verifiable fact. But step 3 is where his unique perspective just takes over. Therefore, humans must be incredibly powerful. As he proudly puts it, because every time humans see me, they start screaming and running away. Rochi genuinely views human panic as a superpower. Think about it. In his tiny little world, making a giant creature flee the room in sheer terror, that is the ultimate flex, and he absolutely wants that power. Okay, here we go. Act 3, the ironic climax. Right before we hit the punchline, I want you to remember this definition of situational irony. An event or outcome that is strikingly different from what was expected or intended. This is literally the exact mechanical engine driving our finale. So the teacher tries to gently correct him, saying, "That's not how it works." She is desperately attempting to bring him back to actual reality, ready to explain that screaming is about fear, not power. But in an absolute masterclass of comedic timing, Rochi delivers his final line, "Really? Then why did the principal just jump on a chair?" Just as the teacher is trying to impart objective reality, subjective reality comes crashing through the door in the form of the school principal. This just brilliantly illustrates the mechanics of the punchline. First, you have the teacher attempting a logical correction. Second, right on cue, the principal, literally the ultimate human authority figure in a school, exhibits extreme stereotypical fear. And finally, that totally undignified reaction unintentionally validates the cockroach's flawed perspective. Rochi wins the debate not by actually being right, but by the situation perfectly validating his wrongness. As we wrap up this explainer, I'm going to leave you with this thought. How often do we misinterpret the reactions of others based entirely on our own limited viewpoint? I mean, we laugh at Rochi because his perspective is so obviously flawed to us. But what actions of the people in your life are you completely misreading simply because you're stuck inside your own perspective? It is absolutely something to think about the next time you make a snap judgment.